U.S. Marshal joins Fight Against Parkinson's podcast. I had a remembrance of the days when I began work after my stint at the University of Arkansas. I got a master's degree and I went to Langley, Virginia. And the location that I began work at was similar in the sense that it had no signage because I had began work at the CIA, and I was in Washington in the late 60s, and so it was kind of a fun thing to go out and visit today with the U.S. Marshal and his offices. Well, it's good to be here at the U.S. Marshal office here in North Little Rock. I was able to find it through a point on the map, and Bob or Jeremy or Robert Emmets met me and got me in the door, and so we're going to start this and just more or less humanize some of the things that he does. I know that when we met a few weeks ago, we were having a social time there, and we were at the Walk-Ons, again a place for people to meet, and it's like a sports bar for families, so it's a kind of a nice place. And we got to discussing some of our history, and amazingly, I was caught up on the fact that I knew, and I was really born about a half mile away from Beale Kidd, so that history of U.S. Marshal is something that I've had out there for a long time. So it wasn't anything new as far as the U.S. Marshal, but I think when I started talking to Jeremy, and is that what you want to be called, Jeremy?
Jeremy, yes, sir. Okay. Yeah, my dad's Robert, so I go by Jeremy.
Oh, that's where it is. Okay, well, tell me a little bit about your history and maybe the history of. I think that's the best way to kind of get into what we're discussing here. Just tell me a little bit about how you got involved, and then we'll start talking about the history of maybe the U.S. Marshal, because it's been out there for years, or forever.
We're the oldest federal agency in the U.S., so yeah. So my history with the Marshals, well, I grew up down in Warren, Arkansas, a little small town southeast of, about an hour south of Pine Bluff. Grew up down there picking tomatoes every summer. That's what they're known for, is their Bradley County pink tomatoes down there. So I grew up. Only family member I ever had that was involved in law enforcement was my great uncle. He was in the Air Force, did some stuff with those guys, and then he came home, and he was actually the chief of police there at the University of Arkansas in Monticello. So I don't know if I picked it up from him or what, but I do remember as a child, very young child, me and my dad would watch like Cahill and Gunsmoke and Bonanza, and I was always just enamored with the U.S. Marshal that was portrayed in those films. And so when I began, as I got older and I began to learn the real history of the United States Marshal Service, of course I was fascinated. And my dad was always telling me, my dad was a mechanic, an electrician, and he was always telling me, man, the U.S. Marshals, they're the best of the best. They're the top echelon. So I always wanted to be the best of the best. I grew up, and when I turned, 19, I became a explorer with the Ashley County Sheriff's Office, and what that is where kids between the ages, I think it was 16 and 21, you can't be a police officer, but you can come hang out with the police officers. It's kind of like Boy Scouts for police officers.
Yeah.
And so got to hang out with the Ashley County Sheriff's Department and got to, watch what these guys do, and I just became absolutely obsessed with law enforcement. And so later I got on with the Drew County Sheriff's Office while I was in college. Worked a little bit down there. I was on a police corps scholarship program where state of Arkansas paid for me to go to college, but in return I had to work for a department for 4 years. So I did that, graduated college, and my first assignment was to the Bologna Police Department. I worked in Bologna for a little while, was a school resource officer there, and also a patrolman. And then later I transferred and went to Saline County, worked at Saline County for a number of years. I was on their SWAT team. I was a detective there for a while. And then later I got on the U.S. Marshals Task Force. And basically how that operates is that the U.S. Marshals, we still operate just like we did back in the 1800s.
Wow.
Marshal comes into town and he will, we select candidates for special deputization, and that means that our team is comprised of members from North Little Rock Police Department, Little Rock Police Department, Pulaski County Sheriff's Office, the Arkansas Community Corrections. We're comprised of all these agencies that come together. We special deputize these agents to come work with us in doing the fugitive apprehension. So we do that as a force multiplier. That's just like the sheriff or the old West Marshal used to form his posse.
Now, when you deputize, does that mean they're responsible to you, or is it or do you collaborate and somebody else takes responsibility, or how does that?
Yeah, so they fall under the umbrella of the Department of Justice. Then I guess if you look at it in terms of their paycheck comes from their parent agency. So, but with us, when they're working with us, if they work overtime or whatever, we pay their overtime fees. But they're out. They have the full powers of a federal agent. They can travel outside jurisdictions, and that assists that agency, because if, let's say, North Little Rock has a homicide occur in their jurisdiction, that fugitive may flee to California. Well, with them having a task force officer assigned to us, that agent has the powers to track that fugitive to California, to send the collateral leads there, to have that person arrested. I mean, it's a benefit for both parties. For us, it's a force multiplier. For them, it gives them broader jurisdiction. And it's just the same way that the Marshals posse used to do in the Old West. So some things have changed, and some things still stay the same. So.
Well, in my youth, or maybe when I was coming out of college, James Bond was it. So I ended up going to CIA, and it was kind of part of that, because at the time, NASA was putting a man on the moon. So that was another exciting part of having a degree in mathematics. But
right.
That was the computer part of it. But that's kind of interesting how those kind of things developed in your youth, and how you kind of were able to pursue it. Mine's kind of changed, but I did do a lot of international business development, so I got some value out of what I did. But that was the fascinating part of that. And then as I said, when I grew up in Harrison, I was born just about a half mile away from the Bill Kidd's home area, and I don't know if I ever met him, but I knew his family. I knew a lot of the other people with his family. So
right.
I thought maybe you could talk about the history, and then maybe connect it back to what Bill Kidd was kind of famous for when the 57 Central riot came. So
yeah, so Bill Kidd, he was actually he was in the middle of a lot of history, and it really, some of the history involving our office and his administration kind of goes unnoticed. Bill Kidd was, I've got some of the old photographs here when the whole integration thing was going on with the Central High School there.
Yeah.
These are the original Associated Press photos from 1957 and 58.
Yeah.
This is actually Bill Kidd meeting with Governor Faubus there. I believe he was serving him pretty much a cease and desist, get out of the way type thing.
Yeah.
So what happened in our office was Marshal Bill Kidd actually special deputized 100 agents. So like our task force right now is comprised of about 25 guys. He brought in 100. He knew this was going to be bad. He knew this was going to be explosive. And so he was prepared for it. And he prepared an ops plan of how the school would be integrated, how the marshals would, protect these students being brought into the school. And so all that, he gets all this ready to go, and has got this ops plan ready to go into effect. Well, then of course the school shut down. Faubus shut the school down. So that the 101st Airborne comes in. We didn't have to deploy as we had originally planned. But what happened was later, when James Lee Meredith was integrated there at Ole Miss, pretty much Mississippi wasn't prepared for that. All the riots and stuff that came with that, and so Bill Kidd said, "Hey, I've got this excellent ops plan. We were prepared for this. Our ops plan here in the Eastern District of Arkansas was actually employed there at Ole Miss during the riots."
Okay,
so,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. And Herschel Garner used to be the chief deputy here. He was there at the Ole Miss riots. He was there when the three young ladies, the McDonough girls, were integrated there in New Orleans. You see the iconic photo of the two deputy marshals escorting the three black girls into school. He's still alive, lives in Rising, Arkansas. He actually lives at probably about 20 minutes from where I grew up.
Yeah.
And the whole time growing up, I had no idea that this iconic, deputy marshal lived so close to me, or I'd probably been at his house every day, bugging him to death.
Yeah.
He's a great guy. He comes up here every now and then, stops by and visits with us, and he's done a podcast with me before. And
Good.
Just an exceptional fella. He's got such
Okay.
a wealth of knowledge of the job and how things used to be done, and just the history he was involved in. It's pretty phenomenal.
I know there's a lot of pictures around here on the wall, and I know that we're going to do that later on. But it's pretty amazing that the connection here with the old West and then I guess the new society and
Yeah.
how things operate. But still, I always wonder again when you have I guess the Marshal, and then you have all the state, local, and all the other, and getting that to work together is pretty, I would think, pretty daunting task sometimes, I guess, to get all these pieces together. But if you have somebody that's in charge, then it makes a lot of difference.
Yeah. Well, the way we like to operate is if we come to a jurisdiction, like if we go to Yale County, if we've got an escaped fugitive, or if we've got someone we're tracking and they're in a certain county, we go there. We never come in to take over a case or to go, hey, we're the federal government, it's ours now. We never do that. We work in tandem. We assist. We want to be that helping hand, that partner in their investigation. We don't investigate the crime, but if you hand us a warrant for someone, we're going to go find them. And that's what we do. We've been playing hide and go seek for 230 some odd years. So, that's something we pride ourselves on. But a lot of people don't know that the U.S. Marshal Service, our primary function is judicial security. The protection of the federal courts, the protection of the judiciary, that's our primary focus. Fugitive investigations is, I'd like to say, it's a close second. But my first year spent when I became a full-time deputy marshal was sitting in courtroom. It was escorting federal prisoners to court. I've done protection details with Supreme Court justices and deputy attorney general, stuff like that. But that's kind of the stuff people don't think about when you think about a U.S. Marshal.
Well, you were, I think we were talking about the Supreme Court nominee or whatever, and that was a 24/7. What was some of the things that went on there? Just to give us an idea of what you do when you're trying to protect somebody in those situations. What do you end up doing? I mean, I know that they have their own privacy as far as a residence, but you're outside somewhere, I guess.
Yeah. So, and it depends. It depends on who the nominee is or who the protectee is. The case, one of the biggest ones I was involved in was when Justice Brett Kavanaugh was going through the Senate confirmation hearings.
Right.
I'm sure you kind of remember when the explosive time that was, and the different the accusations being made, and the different a lot of emotions involved in that. So he was considered a high threat. It was a 24/7 protection detail, and we are always in close proximity of the protectee. We go with them anywhere they move in public. We're there with them. It's just like you see, with Secret Service with the president. We're always right there with that individual. I've got some other protectees that I've been with that it was a loose protection detail. You let them go about their day, let them go about doing what they want to do, but at the same time, you've got to keep an eye on them and make sure they stay safe. But with someone like that, during what was going on during that time, it was a little more heightened security. So we had to step up our measures, but yeah, we were there, 24 hours a day.
So you, in any of those situations, you didn't have any experiences that were anything that you worried about, or was something that...
No, the times I was there with him, I think I was there about 2.5 weeks. Didn't say anything. Of course, you got people that protest, and they'll be outside. They'll show up at a residence. And they've got their signs and chanting, but it mostly stayed peaceful. We intercepted a lot of mail that was threatening, stuff like that. But other than that, we didn't have any occurrences while I was there. Now later, I think the last couple of years ago, we still have a protection detail going, and some of our deputy marshals intercepted some guys that were actually coming there with the intent to harm. I think they found them with some weapons in their vehicle and stuff, and so thankfully we had a protection unit there.
Yeah. So that's what else have you been involved with on a personal level? I mean, I know you have to be away from your family, and that's one of the sacrifices you make is you don't know exactly how long you're going to be gone and the times you're going to be gone. So that's kind of a thing. It's part of the job.
Yeah.
I mean, when you took the job there, I guess we can talk about the pluses and minuses, but some of that would be in giving up some family time or whatever. But what did you see when that you saw was really great about the job, maybe wasn't so great about the job when you took the job?
The greatest thing for me about this job has just been the people I've met, the people I've gotten to know over the years. I mean, I've got friends across the entire U.S. now that I stay in touch with, guys I went to the academy with, guys I've worked details with. So just the friendships made has been the greatest thing for me. But plus, getting to be, just like I talked about Herschel Garner, getting to be right in the middle of history sometimes. I mean, I've been to two United Nations assignments. I've been with foreign dignitaries that I would never meet these people in my normal life. I've hung out with, I've been with leaders of countries before. I've crossed paths with Zelensky a couple times. It's just.
What do you think about him?
Well, all I saw was as he walked by, he was going to go to a meeting, so I just caught a glimpse of him. But it seemed like
He's kind of short, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a shorter guy. He's always wearing that same green shirt he's got on. But yeah, I was like, oh wow, there goes Zelensky, and that's just not something in a normal life that you.
Yeah. I mean, I found, and again, this is more travel international. One-on-one with people, they all have pretty nice people for the most part. I don't know if you found people, that would be rude or expect something that I'm just curious if you run into that. I mean, probably run into all types, but I didn't know if you ever.
No, everybody I've been with, and like I said, I've been with some people that are, pretty important, but they were humble. Some of the most humble people I've met. I mean, I've shared family pictures with Supreme Court justices. We've sat there in an airport, and I'm like, oh, here's my grandkids, and and
so
here's the
normal conversations.
Yeah, just normal conversations, and and after it's over with, and when I go home and I'm telling my wife about it, I'm like, it's just so weird. I'm sitting there with someone I'm watching on TV that's, they're in the middle of making history, and here I am in an airport, having a casual conversation with this person. And it's so getting to do stuff like that is absolutely amazing. I'm still that little kid that grew up in Warren, Arkansas, and getting to be put into moments like this is really, it's super cool. So it's
now, I know when I was we went through a lot of testing. Of course, the CIA is a different animal, but there's polygraphs and everything like that, and the thing we're running into, and you see it on a national level, where somebody's working like for the governor of New York, and they're in there trading secrets with China or other things.
Yep.
And the issue there is it's always about vulnerability of people.
Right.
It can be money or power or sex or just you name it.
Yep.
It used to be gender. I don't know as much anymore. If they wanted to know about you, because if you had a weakness, somebody's going to come to you. And that was the thing I guess was drilled in my mind. And I don't know if you've ever had people you worked with that you felt like there was maybe a time where you couldn't trust them any longer, or it proved to be that way, or if it's pretty solid. I want to get into that a little bit because of all the mental issues that are out there today. And when you're into Parkinson's, we always talk about the depression, and we talk about anxiety. And when you talk about that's with any job. And you get depression and anxiety. And I said that we can talk about all the people with disabilities, but that'll apply to the employee at Walmart or wherever else, or maybe a U.S. Marshal. But how do you deal with those things, or maybe people like that? I'm just kind of throwing a general question that you may have either faced with or just thought about in your situation that you might have had.
Okay. Yeah, you talked about the vulnerabilities that we have, and so we all, as a deputy U.S. Marshal, we all hold a top secret security clearance, and so I was actually surprised. I never could figure out why they were so stringent on our credit reports. Like, they check our credit every year. And so I'm like, why do that? And when they told me, they said, because if you have bad credit, if you're in debt, that makes you vulnerable. If somebody comes up to you and go, hey, here's $25,000, let's do this or this, you're susceptible to that. So that made sense to me after that. So they keep a pretty tight monitor on, our personal life greatly affects our business life. And I've got 3 teenage sons. I've got one that's actually in the military, and I've told him, I said, man, watch everything you do. Even that little speeding ticket you don't think about can affect you later. So, but no, so they're pretty good on that. But and it is a stressful job. We do deal a lot with different situations that can cause anxiety, depression, and stuff like that. We've, unfortunately, law enforcement has one of the highest suicide rates. It's got one of the highest divorce rates. I remember when I went through Little Rock's Police Academy years ago, one thing they always preached on was don't take the job home. Don't take it home. And I think I've kind of evolved that over the years. Of it's not so much don't take it home; it's don't bottle it up. Because because I did that for so long, I would be involved in something at work. I would see something that normal people don't get to see. I mean, you see death, you see the evil in people, and if you don't talk about that, if you don't get that out, and you come home and your wife asks you, how are you doing today? Well, I don't want to talk about it. You're just bottling that up, and it's eventually going to come out. And so, that's why, we now I think the paradigm has shifted where, it's more encouraging now. It's not so taboo that if if a fellow officer or agent or somebody comes to me and goes, man, I've been going through a divorce, I'm depressed, whatever, go talk to somebody. It's okay to talk to somebody. It's okay to, express feelings. We all try to be these macho,
Right.
hairy-chested knuckle draggers, but we all have feelings. We had a situation a few weeks ago where we got involved in a shooting, and it was a pretty tenseful time. And after we're over with, we do a buddy check. Hey, everybody good? If any issues, there's counseling that gets offered. The U.S. Marshals, we have what's called a CERT team. That's a critical incident response team. I mean, literally on my way home from that shooting, I got a phone call from a guy at headquarters, and he's like, "Hey, man, I heard you was involved in this. Are you okay?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm good right now." And he goes, "Okay, when the adrenaline wears off tomorrow and the excitement calms down, I'm going to call you back and just make sure everything's okay." So that made me feel good. It was kind of the, hey, we're here for you. And these guys are comprised of like deputy marshals that have been through something like that. I mean, these aren't like psychologists or anything. They're fellow teammates that have experienced something themselves. And, it may have been either a death or it may have been, a shooting or something like that, but they've been through it. So it felt good to know that somebody there, had my back if I needed to talk, and somebody I could just, get some things off my chest. So, yeah, mental health's a big thing.
I think that's great, and really, I didn't expect to totally get into that, but that was really one of the things I hoped to get out of this is what you're saying. I tried to do an interview with a person that was kind of heading up suicide, and she was giving me a very clinical approach, and I kind of cut it off. I said, really, I worked at 911 for a couple of years, and I sit in here and I watched the operators talk people out of suicide, and I saw what was happening, and I say sometimes they weren't successful, and that was really a sad situation. And a lot of times those are not really very well reported. They tell somebody died, but they don't say what the circumstances were. So I think when you dig that down a little bit, and that's what I've been attempting to do, as I say, when I do this, it's a little unplugged in the sense of what I'm doing with my podcast is I want to get into those emotions, and I'm talking to the head of the neurology and the guy that has been working with me, and I want to talk about some of the things that's in this situation with Parkinson's. A lot of people see the Michael J. Fox and they see all that, and I don't have that, but there is a lot of mental stress and a lot of pressure, and what I wanted to do is to go out and talk to people like yourself and get a grassroots or a feeling that what they felt when something happened, and whether I'm sure there's times when something did go wrong and somebody did get killed and you were there, and it even was worse than maybe the victim was the criminal. Maybe I don't know, but I didn't know, exactly, because that can put people in a situation where they may say, well, this is not worth it, or I'm going to take the best deal and do something different or whatever, and to hang in there. I commend you for that, but I also know it's a tough situation. It's stressful, but it's something you have to be prepared to handle. So I'm glad that you kind of opened up on that. One of the things that's kind of more of maybe a fun fact or maybe something else is the witness protection plan. We'll see a few movies on that occasionally, and we'll see something happens where somebody relocates, and I've been joking to people. I said, well, I'm going to expose somebody, and I'm going to be asking about the witness protection plan and how do you get into that. And I know it's sometimes some kind of a federal offense, and you're trying to protect witnesses that were involved. Have you ever seen that, or what kind of talk about that a little bit? I'm curious what that amounts to.
Yes. So the witness protection program, we pride ourselves on it. We've that's something that the Marshal Service is in charge of, and to date, as long as the protectee follows our guidelines, we have never lost a single person in our witness protection. Now, that being said, of course you get people that come in that first thing they want to do is they want to call, their ex-girlfriend or their ex-wife or, somebody from their past life.
Yeah.
And that's immediately going to be, you can get removed from the program. If you're not going to follow our guidelines, we're not going to, keep wasting our time, because if you're going to keep throwing yourself out there, like you may have a guy that, maybe he was a mobster and I'm sure you remember the whole time when, the guys in New York, old Teflon Don, all those guys, we had all these guys turning government witness, but they get into the program, well, they're moved to somewhere else, given a new life, new setup and all that, but then they call their old buddy Tony up and like, hey dude, I hate it here in Colorado. Well, we're going to know about that, and you're going to be removed from the program. If you have to follow our guidelines. So, but if you follow them, we've had 100% success rate. But yeah, it's a cool program. I've never been directly involved in it. We have, of course, Arkansas, the Eastern District. We have agents here that participate in that, or that function in that role. I've gotten to see a little bit into it. They're very hush hush, and they're they're kind of the glimmer man of stuff. But it's here, and it's done. You may have somebody that was a witness to a federal crime that literally had no involvement in it whatsoever, but now they're under threat. Let's say they saw, cartel doing something and they testify. Well, now cartel knows who they are, and so they can, we can remove them from their past life and give them new identities and all that stuff. But it's, from what I've seen about it, it's pretty much just like the movies. I mean, you may be given a new birth certificate. I don't think we go so far as some of the movies where we're out staging car crashes and going, oh, they died in a car wreck, and here's their headstone. And I don't know if we do that much, but we may. But they're, like I said, they're pretty quiet about it. So I don't know a whole lot about it, but I do know that we have 100% success rate with it.
Seems like they're always talking about Montana or some place out west. I don't know if anybody comes to Arkansas, but we had somebody from New Jersey came and lived across the street from us. It was really suspicious. So
yeah.
You always find when people move in and they're really kind of protective of their history, and you kind of wonder. I mean, it's more of a, as I say, it's more from Hollywood than anything else. But I think it's kind of an interesting and also something that people somewhat joke about, but it's a serious matter. And like you said, when there are criminals involved, they don't really like to stay in that plant because they want to go out and do what they did in the past, and you're not going to let them do that.
Yeah. So I can't imagine being in that role. That the mental anguish of you've pretty much got to let your past life die and you've got to start anew. Let's say you were a doctor in a past life and now you're a janitor at a school. Yeah. I'm sure that takes a mental toll. But like I said, I haven't had a whole lot of involvement on that side. But to me, it's always kind of struck me as being like an adult babysitter. I like chasing fugitives, but I like the hide and go seek aspect.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'm going to spend some time looking around and taking some pictures here. I'm not going to keep you up too long here, but one of the things I've noticed here lately, and it's something that I don't know whether you're involved or not, but I saw that there was a release here lately of there's a Facebook, it's a Russian Facebook called VK. Are you familiar with VK? Okay, it's people have been worried about TikTok, and I don't know. Do you all have anything to do with TikTok or?
I mean, it's just another social media tool. I mean, of course,
I don't know if you had to worry about people bringing cases that were federally involved with TikTok or not.
No, I mean we've got an entire unit that does media tracking, and they watch. I mean, I get a list every morning anywhere the term U.S. Marshal has been used in any media outlet. So if just like with this podcast, I mean, I'm sure that I'll get an email saying it's on there. So,
okay.
But TikTok, of course, you can look up U.S. Marshal stuff on there. But if there's anything that detects like suspicious activity or something we should be involved in, again, we don't investigate criminal activity. We investigate whereabouts. More so. So that's where we differ from the other agencies, like FBI. They're looking for who done it. We're kind of looking for who you're saying did it. So
that's kind of thing. And when they gave this, I guess it was on September 4th. I'm very familiar with it because it's a kind of a Russian. It's a social network like Facebook, but they supposedly listed 390 million people users, and I know from my reporting that there was some Klan KKK, which is in the Boone County area up there, that were members, and it seems suspicious when people fight for the right for the rights for freedom of speech, then they'll fight you for that, then they'll go out on a secret network and do whatever they want to do.
Right, yeah.
And again, you got people that will not break the law locally, but they do it on a national scene, and that's just a general observation there that you kind of come across. And I don't know, it gets lost a little bit because there's so many other issues that's going on with social media and politics, but I always kind of wonder. And again, it may boil down to the FBI, and it may eventually be U.S. Marshals, but there are things that are out there that are hard to police, I guess, and hard to do. I'm sure you get all kinds of things that come across the desk here that people are interested in and have a concern over.
The biggest fear to me right now is AI, artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the things I've seen that you can do with that. Of course, I've got the little chat GPT, and I can say, hey, write a speech on whatever, and it, in 5 seconds it's got a speech written. But no, there's just so much more technology on that I'm just, and I know it's already being used criminally, but I think it's going to be very hard to handle. I know the times I've been around our Deputy Attorney General, she's big on making sure that, that we do have a grasp on this and that we are able to, I guess, detect the criminality of it, because I've seen where you can take a picture of a young lady, or you can create a picture of her. But if, say, I get a picture, you post a picture on Facebook, I grab a picture of your daughter, I can make a driver's license with her picture on it. I can make, obscene photos out of it. I can take her voice and AI it, and I can have her making an entire sentence. You call up mama and say, hey, I've been kidnapped. I need $200,000. And it sounds like your kid crying on the phone. I mean, it's
sure.
I mean, it's just AI is scary, and it's
I know it, and there are some benefits. I'll tell you a little bit about what I've kind of come across was in, and it's scary in this sense too. But I was in cable, and so I saw a lot of things early on where Facebook and Google and everybody was figuring out, your behavioral marketing. They figure out what you are interested in, and they target sales. I mean, I'll say something about an electric wheelchair, and I've got tons of things popping up on my Facebook. Well, the other positive thing about it is, I do have a smartwatch, and it collects all the information, and it tells how many steps I walked, and you can even get blood pressure. You can get a lot of health things that, if somebody's off remotely and need help, then there's a lot of somewhat like 911 and the smart 911.
Yeah.
So but there are going to be concerns that the wrong guys get that information, and no telling what that health information, it might be used like what they're using now for the sales and marketing and the other things that they try to get a lot of gimmicks and things out there that are not right.
Right.
And so, it's going to be something that somebody's going to have to step in and look at, and that, like you say, it's a two-edged sword there. There's going to be some things that maybe that might help me in my situation, but they can be harmful too if I'm not careful with it.
My wife the other day bought a new refrigerator, and we've got it, and it's got the whole screen on the front that's got Alexa and all that stuff on it, and she'll walk to the kitchen and she'll say, Alexa, add dog food to the shopping list, and it does it. But then I'll notice, like, later on Facebook, I'm getting all these dog food ads, and I'm like, that's too much. It's too much listening to me in my house.
So do you use Alexa?
We've got Alexa in the house.
I know, but you ask for weather, or what are your conversations?
I don't really use it that. I'm not a big tech guy. Like, I still wear an old analog watch. I don't have the iPhone watch.
Okay, but you do you have an iPad? I guess you have an iPad, right?
I do, but it's been sitting there plugged up. Mostly I've got pictures on it. All my pictures of my kids and grandkids. But my wife, she's got everything teched out. Like, she can walk in the house and tell it to do whatever, and I'm just like, that's just too many years in my house. But I need a matter of fact, I'm one of these guys. I almost want to go home and put my phone in a fairway bag and lock it up. But
well, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to kind of wrap it up here, but I'm going to give you a chance to say anything you'd like to say about. I know you've got maybe some knee issues and some things coming on, but you're looking at retirement down the road. I just kind of want to talk a little bit about your future, and then we'll kind of leave it at that, and then I'll go around and make a few pictures, and we'll get out of here.
So, I know that your podcast is focused on, like, finding your happy place, and that's one of the things too that a lot of us in law enforcement, the job's stressful. You have to find some outlet later. Unfortunately, some guys find it at the bottom of a bottle. Others find it, all kinds of nefarious ways. But if you learn to, I try to look at my job a lot of times as like I love to watch horror movies. The scarier the better, but I know when it's over, I press stop and I put that away. So I kind of look at it, and when I see the bad in the job that I do, I press stop. I try to deal with that, refocus, go to my happy place, find something. Me and my wife, we love to travel. We're building a new home now, near a lake. I like to sit on the back porch and smoke a cigar and just be quiet. I've got a group of our friends. We'll all get together for a cigar, and our main rule is we don't talk about work. Anything else you want to talk about, let's not talk about work. Because that's the problem with cops, is that we always want to hang out with other cops. And then you sit there and you're always telling war stories back and forth. And it's good to have. I have several friends that are not law enforcement. I'm kind of the little odd duck in the group, and and at first I was the kind where they all want to go, man, let's hear the next story. What cool happened at work today? And now they kind of know that I don't like to sit and talk about that all the time. I like to, let's talk about something else, So, and I like to tinker like with old cars. I like to do a little woodworking. Those are things that I find to relax. And, of course, the bouts of depressions come. You see bad things, especially with kids. The Marshal Service, we pursue, or we actually help track missing kids. We deal a lot with human trafficking sometimes. That stuff right there really pulls at your heartstrings. It's different to go after a fugitive, a guy that's on the run, and it's a game of chess. I got to figure out what your next move is going to be and find you. But with a missing kid, that's threat of being trafficked or whatever, that's a whole new ball game, and that's something that's really been stressful for me in the last couple of years, as I've been working a lot with missing kids, and I found that tracking a fugitive, when I get home that night, if I didn't find him that day, I'll find him tomorrow. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. Missing child, I'm up at night, 2:00 in the morning, checking social media to see if they've logged in or doing whatever, just trying to, that keeps you up. So that's been a different ball game, and that's definitely something that, again, but you have to be able to set that aside and go, you know what, that's work. I got to set it aside. I've got to find my peace right now. So, but no, it's, overall, the job has been one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. I love it when traded. Like I said, I've got great friends out of it, met some great people. I got to do some cool things. So far, it's been a great experience for me. When traded for anything.
So what location or as far as travel would you like to go or go see? Or you got anything picked out there?
Well, so I've got a trip to Europe coming up that I'll be doing soon. I can't disclose it yet because I haven't done it. I can talk about it when I get back. But I've gotten to go to. I've been to Alaska. I've been to Germany. I've been to England. I've gotten to go, but my favorite place of all is New York City.
Okay.
I always volunteer to go on the United Nations detail. It's usually during the month of September. My wife has traveled with me in the past and gone up there. She'll work from the hotel while I'm out doing my thing, but I love New York City.
A lot of energy there.
Yeah, sure. It's just anything you want to do. I love the culture. I love the food. It's just, I can't tell you how many Broadway plays I've gone to with my wife, because I love that city. But.
Yeah, well, you're going to try Latin America, go down to Buenos Aires or Rio. They're going to have a football game there in Brazil tonight. So.
Oh, yeah.
Well, okay, I really appreciate your time, and I know you're a busy guy. And
been great talking with you.
We've been trying to work this out for a while, and I know you had some things to deal with, and we finally got it together.
Yeah. We've been doing a large-scale operation over the last few months, and I think next week, if you're watching the news, you ought to see some media releases on that, see our final numbers and all, But yeah, it's been a busy past couple of months. I'm ready to relax.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Laird.
That's good. I'm glad you.
Again, another special thanks to Jeremy and the people there at the U.S. Marshal Office. It was a great time and very informative, and you'll see a few things as I walked around, and they were all laid out very well and very enjoyable, but it was
I don't get anything.
very memorable.
Yeah, you're kind of fixed up there.
Yeah, they call mine the mini museum.
Yeah, it is. Just a full-fledged medic area. So where the doctors come from? They
We've got we actually coordinate with Pafford Ambulance Service, and they are guys that are trained. This was actually my grandmother's old spittoon, my great grandmother's.
Tune, huh?
Yep, she used to chew days' work, and she'd sit out there on the back porch and she'd knit and she'd spit in that thing.